Jordan, thank you for making the time. We know how much is on your plate. Let's calibrate. The goal here is to get you out of the reactive cycle and into a strategic position. To start, just tell us, what's the primary pressure point for you today?
The pressure point is a dashboard David, my VP, forwarded me 20 minutes ago. It's a screenshot from the new EPM software showing a sea of red next to my team's names for low activity yesterday. His email was 5 words. This is what I'm talking about. That's it. No context, just accusation.
Electronic performance monitoring. A classic case of applying an input metric to output-based knowledge work. It's a fundamental category error in performance management. Please, continue, Jordan.
I know exactly what they were doing. They were offline, in a breakout room, whiteboarding the entire Q3 API integration. I encouraged this for deep work, to get away from screens and innovate. The entire sprint depends on this architecture. It was the most productive 2 hours of their week. But the algorithm doesn't see whiteboards. It sees idle keyboards. So now my primary function is justifying their work, curating proof of work to fight surveillance data instead of leading my team. It's a profound waste of resources.
So you're caught in the gap between the reality of high-value work and the story the data is telling your VP. A story that, in his mind, paints a picture of non-compliance and threatens the psychological safety you're trying to build.
Exactly. I feel like a translator between my team and a leadership that only speaks data, even when the data is meaningless. On one hand, I have to politically navigate explaining to David that his expensive new tool is flawed. On the other, I have to go to my best engineer, Maya, who is coffee badging with my full, unspoken support, and tell her she still needs to create a digital trail to appease an algorithm. It feels fundamentally dishonest. I'm no longer a manager developing talent. I'm a proctor for a productivity theater nobody believes in.
Let's focus on the leadership roles you just described. Translator, proctor. These are roles defined by reactive defense, not proactive leadership. I'm hearing the language of entrapment. You champion trust and autonomy, but this executive pressure forces you into a defensive posture, monitoring your team by proxy. This creates a clear incongruence between your leadership philosophy and your required daily behaviors, which is a direct path to leadership fatigue.
And that fatigue is a feature, not a bug, of this system. Jordan, what you're describing isn't a personnel problem. It's a cascade of systemic failures. David's dashboard isn't a management tool. It's a measurement failure. The organization is using a factory floor metric, keyboard activity, to measure creative problem solving. It's like judging a surgeon by the number of instruments used, not the success of the operation. Maya's coffee badging isn't insubordination. It's what organizational psychology calls psychological reactance. It's a predictable, rational response from a high performer when their autonomy is threatened by arbitrary controls. The RTO mandate isn't a moral issue. It's a design failure. It incentivizes the very behaviors it's meant to prevent.
Alec is spot on. Jordan, it's critical you internalize this. This productivity paranoia isn't a reflection of your leadership capability. You're not failing. It's a systemic echo from an outdated management playbook. The stress you're feeling is a logical response to being placed in an operationally impossible position.
So I'm not crazy? Because most days I feel like I'm the only one who sees the emperor has no clothes. But my job is to complement his suit.
You are not crazy. That metaphor paints a clear and stressful picture of the corporate reality you're navigating. Our goal here isn't to help you cope with an impossible situation. It's to help you design a new leadership playbook that allows you to manage this conflict effectively without sacrificing your integrity or your sanity. Thank you for that context, Jordan. To start building that new playbook, tell me, what is the single most valuable outcome for you from our conversation today?
A concrete strategy for Maya. She's my lead engineer, the architect for the entire Q3 API project. Her work is brilliant, and she's the only one who can deliver it on this timeline. I respect her for seeing the RTO mandate as the security theater it is, but her coffee badging is so blatant it's creating political risk for me. David is looking for noncompliance, and Maya is practically gift-wrapping it for him. The rest of the team sees her getting away with it because she's a high performer, which creates a perception of inequity. It undermines my authority when I need to enforce other standards. I feel like I'm in a two-front war, defending the team from David's top-down paranoia while managing this principled resistance from my most critical direct report. It's an unsustainable leadership position. If I lose her, the project fails. But if I can't get her to perform even basic compliance, I lose credibility with David and the rest of the team. I look like I've lost control. What's the strategic move?
Let's pause and correctly categorize the problem. This is critical. You are not dealing with an insubordinate employee. You are witnessing a textbook case of psychological reactance. We see this in every organization that rolls out top-down control mandates without buy-in. When you threaten the autonomy of high performers, a key driver of their success, you don't get compliance. You get intelligent workarounds. This is a predictable behavioral output. Maya's coffee badging isn't a moral failure or a personal attack on your authority. It is a system design failure. The policy, by introducing an arbitrary constraint, has incentivized this exact behavior. She is the most rational actor in this equation. The problem isn't the player, it's the game. And right now, you're trying to referee a game with broken rules.
Alec is right, Jordan. Let's stay with that reframe because it unlocks your leadership opportunity here. You said you feel like you're in a two-front war. What if Maya isn't the opposition? What if she's your most valuable intelligence? Her resistance, which feels like it's undermining you, might actually be the clearest signal that your current operating model is broken. You perceive her as a problem to be solved, but what if you reframe her as evidence to be used? She isn't a liability you have to manage. She is the data point that proves the system is flawed more powerfully than any argument you could make. She's not your problem, she's your proof.
My proof? I've been seeing her as the source of the bad data, not the evidence that the data itself is meaningless.
Exactly. With that reframe, let's set our agenda. I suggest two distinct but connected work streams for our playbook. First, your leadership levers. This is tactical. We'll workshop the politically savvy conversations you need to have, one with David to reframe the metrics, and one with Maya to build an alliance instead of managing an obstacle. We'll craft language that is both authentic and strategically sound. Second, the team's operating system. This is the structural fix Alec mentioned. We'll design a system of such profound clarity around outcomes and key results that you never have to defend productivity again. The system itself will become your defense, making activity-based surveillance completely irrelevant. How does that sound as a plan for our time together?
Okay, yes, that sounds like a viable strategy, a real way forward, not just coping.
Excellent. Let's start with the operating system, the second item on our agenda. The fundamental design flaw here, Jordan, is that your organization is trying to measure 21st century knowledge work, which is nonlinear and output-based, with a 20th century factory floor metric, physical presence. It's a category error. To fix this, we need to transition your team's performance framework to a results-only work environment, or ROE. The principle is simple. As the leader, you define the what with absolute quantifiable clarity. Your OKRs, project deliverables, key results. Once the what is agreed upon, you grant total autonomy on the how, the when, and the where. Performance is judged exclusively on the output. Activity, presence, Slack status, all of it becomes irrelevant noise. The work is either delivered to standard and on time, or it isn't. That's the only metric that links to business value.
I understand the theory, Alec. I've read the row case studies. It sounds ideal. But that playbook wasn't written for my VP, David. It's not politically viable. Our number one cultural value, etched on the lobby wall, is bias for action. In David's mind, that translates directly to instant availability on Slack. His entire leadership identity is built on running a tight ship, which to him means visible activity. He needs to feel the hum of the engine. He forwards emails from the CTO at 9 p.m. and expects an immediate response. When he sees a quiet EPM dashboard, he doesn't see deep work. He sees a ghost ship. He sees payroll dollars evaporating. If I propose a results-only framework when he is religiously obsessed with inputs, he won't see me as an innovator. He'll see me as a rogue manager building a fiefdom that isn't aligned with the corporate vision. I'm not just disagreeing with a policy. I'm challenging his identity as a leader who keeps his people on task. It's a non-starter.
Let's relabel those variables, Jordan. You're letting his framing dictate the terms of the problem. These aren't immutable cultural laws. They are dysfunctional operational patterns with virtuous-sounding names. Bias for action, when untethered from strategic outcomes, is a recipe for organizational churn and burnout. It rewards frantic, shallow work over the deep work that creates breakthroughs. And running a tight ship based on activity metrics is like judging a chef by the number of dirty pans, not the quality of the meal. Your job isn't to appease a broken metric. Questioning this doesn't make you rogue. It makes you the most pragmatic leader in the room. You're not challenging a vision. You're highlighting a critical business risk. The current system is explicitly designed to reward performative activity, people clicking around to keep their status green. That behavior has a direct cost in innovation and the eventual turnover of top performers like Maya. Your job is to make the business case that the input metric itself is the source of the risk.
Jordan, let's pause here. What you just laid out was a brilliant, precise analysis of the political risks. That part of you, the strategist who has mapped David's every trigger and understands the corporate culture implicitly, is working hard to protect you. It's trying to keep you from getting your neck chopped off. Let's call it your professional risk mitigator. It's a part of your leadership psyche that has learned the rules of survival in this environment, and it's very good at its job. Right now, what is that risk mitigator telling you? It's saying the safest move, the one with the highest probability of survival, is to maintain the status quo. Keep placating David, keep managing the team's anxiety, because that is the known, survivable path. Challenging the system is an unknown, and therefore a threat. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's exactly it. It's not that I don't believe Alec's logic. I do. It's that it feels incredibly unsafe to implement. It feels like walking a tightrope without a net. The risk mitigator? Yeah, it's screaming, don't do it, just survive this. The path of least resistance feels like the only one that doesn't end with me being flagged in a performance review for being out of sync with the culture. So if I can't just flip a switch to a results-only environment, what's the first viable move? How do I protect my people and my own standing without becoming an obstacle myself?
That's the right question, Jordan. How to create change without becoming a casualty of it. To find that move, we have to understand the force holding you in place. You called it feeling incredibly unsafe. Let's get curious about that feeling as a professional pattern, not a personal one. Let's call it the compliance instinct. This isn't you. It's a learned response that gets triggered. Let's map its signature. Think about the moment right before you have to respond to David about a dashboard he sent. In your body, what does that compliance instinct feel like?
It's a physical response. An immediate tightening in my chest right under my sternum. A low-grade heat that spreads across my shoulders. My first impulse, what my brain screams at me to do, is find the answer that will end the conversation fastest. Not the strategically correct answer, but the one with the least friction. It's an overwhelming urge to just perform agreement, to say, yep, on it, and make the pressure of his scrutiny stop. The instinct isn't to solve the problem, it's to make the discomfort go away as quickly as possible.
The urge to perform agreement. That's a powerful and precise label. It's crucial that you see it as an urge, an impulse, not a conscious leadership choice. That instinct, that physical tightening, is a predictive model built from your past professional experiences. It's code that runs in a split second and says, "Warning, disagreement in this context is career limiting. Initiate appeasement protocol." Let's look at the data it was built on. Where did you learn that prediction so viscerally? Was there a specific work accident you witnessed that hardwired this response?
My first director at my last company, Mark. He performed this role of an open-door leader, publicly asking for feedback in all-hands meetings. "Challenge me," he'd say. It was a trap. I watched him ice out 2 brilliant project leads who took him at his word. They respectfully questioned a timeline in a leadership meeting with data to back it up. Within a month, they were both subtly sidelined. Projects deprioritized, teams reassigned. They weren't fired, they were made irrelevant. We all learned the real rule. Running a tight ship meant no one rocks the boat, ever. That compliance instinct, it wasn't a prediction, it was a survival guide I had to write. You performed compliance for Mark, or your career disappeared.
What you're describing has a name in organizational design: organizational scarring. A single, authoritarian leader like Mark creates a form of management debt that everyone in the system pays interest on for years. They condition their direct reports, especially promising managers like you were, to equate professional survival with compliance. That compliance instinct you've identified isn't a personality flaw. It's a highly calibrated risk management tool you were forced to build to navigate a toxic political environment. You learned that demonstrating competence meant showing you could anticipate and placate power. The fundamental design flaw we're addressing now is that this tool, which was essential for survival in that old system, is now obsolete. Worse, it's counterproductive for leading the high-trust, innovative team you want to build. You're using a perfectly good hammer when the job now requires a screwdriver.
Exactly. That predictive model, Jordan, that survival guide, was a masterpiece of political engineering that got you through a genuinely hostile environment. It protected you, and we have to honor its original purpose. It worked. It got you here. But now, as Alec said, it's the very thing causing the leadership paradox you're in. It's the engine driving your stress. It's forcing you to suppress valid signals from your team, like Maya's resistance, in order to perform agreement for David. The survival guide for your last job is actively preventing you from excelling in this one. And this is the most important part. That guide is a tool you have, not a trait you are. The work isn't to get rid of it. The work is to recognize when that old program runs, thank it for the warning, and then consciously, deliberately, choose a different action. To design a new model that serves the leader you are now. To design that new model, Jordan, we have to intercept the old one the moment it activates, not with intellect, but with somatic awareness. Let's bracket David and the politics for a second. I want to check in with you. Right now, I want you to picture the moment we've been discussing. It's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. You haven't heard from Maya. Her Slack dot is gray, and you feel that familiar spike of anxiety, that little whisper, the one David's paranoia installed in your head that says, "I wonder if she's actually working." Before you analyze it, before you build a story or a justification, just stay with the raw data from your body. In that precise moment, when the whisper comes, where do you feel it? Is it the chest tightness from before? Is it your jaw, your stomach? What is the unique physical signature of that specific anxiety?
Okay, yeah, I can feel it now. When it's not about David, when it's about my own doubt, it's different. Not the knot in my chest, it's a buzzing in my hands, an electrical static, like they need to do something, and a distinct tightness that wraps across my shoulders and up my neck. It feels like I'm bracing for impact, and my breathing gets shallow, caught at the top of my chest. I'm not taking a full breath. It's a feeling of being poised for a threat.
That's it. A perfect description. The buzzing, the brace, the shallow breath. That is the somatic signature of the old program running. It's the body's alarm bell. Now, stay with that physical sensation, the buzzing in your hands, the brace in your shoulders. What is the very first impulse when you feel that? Before you even form a sentence, what do your hands do to make that buzzing stop?
They've opened Slack. The impulse is to type. The buzzing is a command. My fingers just move. They open the app, find her name, and start typing. That "so sorry to bother you, just gently checking in" message. Oh God, I see it now. The message isn't for her, it's for me. I'm not checking in on the work. I'm messaging her to relieve the physical pressure in my own body. I'm using my team to regulate my own nervous system. That's awful. The check-in is the intervention that makes the buzzing stop. It gives my hands a task. It's a compulsion.
And that is the point where personal anxiety becomes an operational liability. That physical pressure you feel, the buzzing, the brace, is the cognitive and physiological tax of managing within a low-trust system. It's a surcharge levied directly on you by a flawed organizational design. Every time you expend a unit of your willpower to self-regulate that stress response, that is a unit of leadership capital you are not spending on your actual job, strategy, innovation, or coaching. The system isn't just inefficient. It's designed to actively deplete the cognitive resources of its most conscientious managers. It creates a state of chronic, low-grade threat that forces you into a cycle of reactive, anxiety-driven behaviors that in turn erode the very trust you need. You're not just wasting time collating data for David. You're burning your own core processing power just managing the static generated by his broken machine. It's a tax on your focus and your capacity to lead.
This is the critical insight, Jordan. The whole game. Alec is exactly right. Your apologetic Slack check-in is not a management strategy. It's not even a bad habit. It is a coping mechanism for an intolerable physical feeling created by a broken system. You just connected the dots. The trigger isn't the thought, "I should check on Maya." The trigger is a physical sensation, the buzzing in your hands. This means the first, most powerful move in your new playbook has nothing to do with David or Maya. The first move happens inside you, in the 2-second window between feeling that brace in your shoulders and your hands moving to the keyboard. The intervention point isn't a difficult conversation. It's noticing that buzzing and choosing to do something different for yourself before your hands ever open Slack. That's a profound connection, Jordan. A critical one. So we know the brace and the buzzing trigger the check-in to make the physical pressure stop. Let's go one level deeper. These somatic signals are data. They're trying to warn us about something. What story is that pressure telling you? What is the worst-case catastrophic scenario it's trying to protect you from? If you don't check in, if you just sit with that buzzing and that brace, what do you fear will happen?
I fear David seeing the low activity data. He'll forward it to me with one of his one-word emails. Thoughts? And I'll get that awful pit in my stomach. Then he'll call me in, and I won't have the proof of work I've been scrambling to curate. He'll see it as confirmation that my team is slacking, that I'm letting them get away with it, and that I'm not running a tight ship, like he always says.
I hear that, and that's a very real political risk. That scenario is incredibly stressful. But let's pause the tape there. Let's imagine David and his dashboard don't exist for a second. Let's stay with you. You said he would think you're not running a tight ship. What does it mean if he thinks that? More importantly, what does it mean for you, Jordan, if you are perceived by anyone as a leader who has lost control?
A long pause. A quiet, heavy sigh. It means I'm failing. That's what it means. It means I'm a fraud. It means I'm not the leader I thought I was or the one I claimed to be in my own head. All this talk about being a coach and building a high-trust environment, It's just talk. It's meaningless if my own VP looks at a dashboard and thinks my team is a liability, and by extension, that I am a liability. The pressure I feel from him just validates my deepest professional fear, the need to check in, to curate data, to send that apologetic Slack message. It's not really about my team's productivity. It's about my absolute terror of looking incompetent, of being seen as someone who can't handle their people, of losing momentum, of being passed over for promotion, of stalling out in front of the very people who decide my future here. It's about self-preservation. That's the ugly truth of it.
And there it is. Jordan, please hear this. What you just described is not an individual failing. It is the designated, engineered, and entirely predictable human cost of managing by vanity metrics. That fear is the final product manufactured by this system. The organization's design is not just flawed, it is pathological. It is designed to induce a perfectly rational fear of incompetence in its most dedicated managers. It's a deliberately constructed dilemma forcing you to choose between two options. One, defending your team's real, deep work, which is invisible to the measurement system. And two, performing a superficial, legible version of control that leadership can easily reward. Your fear isn't a sign of weakness, Jordan. It's the opposite. It's proof that you are still connected enough to the real work to feel the pain of that contradiction. You are paying the full emotional and physiological tax for the organization's design flaws. The system creates the anxiety, then punishes you for the coping mechanisms you developed to survive it. It's a perfect closed loop of dysfunction.
Alec is right. That fear of incompetence isn't the problem, Jordan. It's the signal. It's the final flashing red light telling you the entire engine is about to seize. Your honesty in naming it right now is the most competent leadership action you have taken all day. Because now, we're no longer fighting the symptom, the check-in. We can finally address the root cause, not just the system, but your relationship to it. Thank you for that honesty, Jordan. That right there, naming that terror of looking incompetent, is the anchor point for our strategy. You just put your finger on the very center of the machine. Just take a breath. There is no need to fix it or solve it. Just acknowledge it. Acknowledging that truth took immense courage, and it's the most important work a leader can do.
It feels heavy, saying it out loud.
Of course it does. That breakthrough took a tremendous amount of cognitive and emotional energy. For this entire conversation, your nervous system has been in survival mode. That brace, that buzzing, is the signature of a system on high alert. Before we can build the new strategy, we have to intentionally downregulate that threat response to get you back to your prefrontal cortex, your executive brain. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so.
Good. I'm going to guide you through a simple, structured breathing exercise called box breathing. It's a tactical tool you can use anytime you feel that brace or buzzing start. Just follow my voice. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. Let's start by breathing in through your nose for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold that breath at the top for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a slow, controlled exhale through your mouth for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold at the bottom, empty, for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more cycle. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And hold, 2, 3, 4. Now, just let your breathing return to normal. Before opening your eyes, bring your awareness back to your body. Scan your shoulders. What do you notice there now where that brace was before?
It's gone. The tightness is gone. My hands are still. I feel quiet. My brain isn't racing.
Good. That quiet is your new baseline. That is the physiological state from which you can lead without that outdated survival guide taking over. It's from this place that we can design your operational playbook.
Precisely. And let's be clear about what we're building from this baseline. Your fear of looking incompetent is not an irrational anxiety to be eliminated. It is a rational response to a system that measures the wrong things and therefore defines competence incorrectly. The problem isn't your fear, it's the dashboard. Now that you're out of survival mode, we can architect a solution. We will design a set of small, contained, safe-to-fail organizational experiments. These experiments are designed to do one thing: systematically shift the basis of your performance evaluation away from David's subjective, input-based metrics and toward objective, output-based results. We're going to build a system where your competence is so irrefutably demonstrated by results that David's EPM dashboard becomes what it truly is: irrelevant noise. We will make his preferred metric obsolete.
Jordan, in our last few minutes, let's crystallize this. You've mapped the entire chain reaction: the trigger from David's email, the somatic signature of the brace in your shoulders, how that feeling activates the core fear of looking incompetent, which in turn drives the impulse to send that self-soothing Slack message. You've seen the whole machine. So, in your own words, what is the new model? What is the new choice you can make in that critical moment?
The new model is to see the brace not as a command to act, but as a signal to pause. The pause creates a space between the trigger and my reaction, a space to consciously choose to trust my team and the system of outcomes we're building, instead of reacting to David's anxiety or my own. My real job is to protect my team's focus, not to perform my own compliance for a broken dashboard. It's about defending the work, not performing obedience.
Excellent. That's the internal shift. Now let's operationalize it with an external action. We'll run a small, safe-to-fail experiment. The next time David forwards you an EPM report with a comment like, "Thoughts?" you will not defensively compile screenshots of Slack or Asana. Your new protocol is to respond with this, and only this: "Thanks for flagging. The team was in a deep work block for the Q3 API integration, and we're currently ahead of our key result targets. Happy to walk you through the OKR progress if you're concerned about output."
Stay with that for a moment, Jordan. How does that response land for you?
Notice the structure. It does three things. One, it acknowledges his input, "Thanks for flagging," which prevents him from feeling ignored. Two, it provides a business-valid reason for the low activity. Three, and most importantly, it pivots the conversation to the metric you control and the one that actually matters. We're currently ahead of our key result targets. You are not asking for permission. You are stating a fact and offering to provide data on the metric that defines success. It moves the conversation from his frame to your frame. A quiet redirection, not a confrontation.
Okay, I can do that. It feels structured, safe. One time. The next time he sends that email, I'll use that exact script. I won't justify or apologize. I'll just redirect to the results. It's a data gathering exercise.
That's the commitment. This was foundational work today, Jordan. You identified the core fear, regulated your nervous system, and designed the first step of a new leadership playbook.
Grace, wait. This whole strategy, the redirection, the focus on OKRs, it's all built on the assumption that David is a rational actor who is simply using the wrong data. But what if that's not it? What if this isn't about productivity? What if, like my old director, the feeling of control he gets from that dashboard, the validation of seeing everyone busy, is more valuable to him than our actual output? What if I'm building a rational playbook for an irrational game?
That is the million-dollar question, Jordan. It's the most sophisticated question a leader in your position can ask. The fact that you are no longer just reacting to the fear, but are now able to step back from this quiet place and question the fundamental nature of the game itself. That shows the progress you've made in this single hour.
And the experiment we just designed is the diagnostic tool to get that answer. We are sending a calibrated signal into the system to measure the response. A persuadable stakeholder, when presented with a rational alternative focused on results, will pivot. An immovable obstacle, who values the performance of control over the reality of output, will reject the pivot and double down on the flawed metric. His response is not a judgment on you. It is the first piece of hard data that will inform our entire strategy. It tells us if we are in a process of re-education or a process of political containment.
Exactly. So let's hold that question, re-education or containment, as our starting point for next time. We will analyze the data you gather. Thank you for your courage and clarity today, Jordan. We'll see you next week.